legalize, re-legalize actually, and regulate cannabis and address some of those harms from the black market and from ignorance.
So if you're fined, will you pay that fine?
Not a chance. I think everyone should resist these fines and fight for the complete and total reintegration of cannabis and the rest of the botanical drugs into our lives, because the pills, they're expensive, they're dangerous, and they don't work. The herbs, they're cheap, they're effective, and they do work, and we could address a lot of our poverty issues if we allowed everyone into the emerging herbal healthcare industry.
So you're advocating anyone who's fined, don't pay, let's clog the system and tie up the courts.
At least, at the very least, you know, if we don't get some satisfaction soon from somebody, we might have to open up more harm reduction clubs again. I was thinking the Ounces of Prevention Club for my next club. We got to look at what the safe injection people are doing. They're not waiting around for their leaders or their rulers to give them their freedom. They're taking their freedom, and they're doing it because they have to, and that's what the cannabis community should look at doing as well.
Now, I understand next week marijuana history will be made in Canada when you appear before the Supreme Court of Canada. What are you going to be arguing before the court? Well,
I'm with two other challengers, the Kane and the Clay cases, and my challenge is specific to pot dealing. I'm going to be arguing that Section 7 and 15 of the Constitution protect all harmless people, and that if you grow and deal and use this stuff properly, you're harmless, and therefore protected by the Constitution.
Are you saying that there's no harm caused by people who grow and sell dope? Or what about major grow-ops and the crime that that leads to?
Well, it's a crime because it's illegal. It's not a crime because it's dangerous. If it was re-legalized and re-regulated like it used to be, or it is in Holland, then a lot of that crime would disappear. People pay their taxes. They would have very pleasant, nice places to go and buy pot. People would be safe. It would be taken off the streets. The soft and hard drugs would be separated. There's like tons of benefits from that. There's really no drawbacks from a regulated system.
There are a number of people who are legitimately worried about their children, and they feel that any decriminalization is going to harm efforts to keep their kids drug-free. What do you say to those parents?
Well, first of all, there's not much evidence of any culture on the planet being drug-free. Secondly, they should look at the evidence gathered at John Conroy's website, www.johnconroy.com, especially the expert evidence by Dr. Morgan, Dr. Calant, the government's own witness, and other doctors, to the effect that cannabis really hasn't had any evidence of any major significant harms. And the harms that are of a concern, a legitimate concern to parents, that would be impaired driving and impaired lung damage, that sort of thing, can be mitigated through the proper dosage levels, setting, mindset, proper strain selection, organic, high-potency cannabis smoked in moderation, doesn't do any damage to anyone whatsoever. So I think parents are going to kind of have to grow up and admit their kids, if they want to get cannabis, they're going to have access to it. And it's better that they have access in a protected environment where they have access to clean cannabis and information on how to use it properly, rather than being subjected to the black market, which is dangerous and is harmful.
So you're saying that kids, children of any age, should be able to smoke marijuana, or should there be an age limit like we have for alcohol now?
Well, I came up with a potential system when we opened up the Harm Reduction Club, which the charges led to the Supreme Court. And we suggested that parents have a parental permission policy. Say 13 to 18-year-old teens could have access to cannabis if they had face-to-face and written permission from their parents in particular cafes. And that seemed to satisfy a lot of the parents and a lot of the police who we talked to about their concerns. If there was some way where we can ensure the kids were safe from the black market and make sure parents had control over their children, not the state, not the government or anyone else, that seemed to address people's concerns.
Briefly, David, if the Prime Minister's promise is acted on quickly, how will decriminalization change your life?
Well, I'll have to hide smoking pot in Vancouver because they'll start handing out fines willy-nilly. But I don't know. There's a global movement, and we're not going to settle for punishment of any kind. There's a rally on May 3rd everywhere in the world. It's at the Art Gallery at 2 in Vancouver. And it's on Saturday, and it has 220 cities involved in it, and none of the activists anywhere in the world are settling for anything other than complete and total dignity and equality with coffee bean growers and coffee bean dealers and coffee bean users. Because really, when it comes to impact on society, cannabis is slightly below coffee in terms of harm, and that's where the hysteria level should be, below coffee.
Well, we're out of time, so thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
David Malmo-Levine is a pot advocate in Vancouver. We invited BC Solicitor General Rich Coleman to discuss marijuana decriminalization this evening, but he declined our request.
To decriminalize possession of small amounts of marijuana.
Plus, Lynn Robson on reaction to impending changes to Canada's marijuana law. Marijuana. It would mean no criminal record for anyone caught with small amounts. Tonight, the reaction from pot users here at home to the pot shots Washington took today. Lynn Robson reports.
Alain Berthiaume is preparing for court. He's one of the 40,000 Canadians who each year face marijuana-related charges. He's all for decriminalizing pot.
It's a good thing that they want to open their mind regarding the cannabis and the law regarding cannabis.
Last night, the Prime Minister reiterated his promise to ease marijuana possession laws.
We will soon introduce legislation to decriminalize possession of small amounts of marijuana. No. Don't start to smoke right away.
It's no laughing matter to those who treat young people with drug problems. Marc says he's discouraged by a government that sees no risk in easing laws and has shown little support for dealing with the results.
There is no really well-funded, strong federal agency that deals primarily with the issues of substance abuse.
This is the 1 gram.
That will make between 1 and 3 joints. The government might decide 28 times that amount qualifies as personal use.
That's pretty good, and that's fair, I say.
Not good. Too much, say police.
And they still could sell the drugs to kids, but we wouldn't be able to charge them criminally.
Also opposed to the Canadian government plan, the United States government.
How many American citizens are being harmed now because the attitudes and the institutional leadership in Canada is allowing a serious chemical threat to American citizens to grow and become alarming.
Walter says U.S. border guards